Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome back to Synth Stuff. Today we're back on the Montage M again, and we're going to design a sound the way it was done on the Roland D-50 back in the day. Coming up. The Roland D-50 was kind of Roland's answer to the DX7. They knew they had to fight back against Yamaha and its digital introduction of the DX7. They wanted to have something that sounded real, so if they played piano, it would actually sound like a piano. The problem is, to do that, you need a sampler, or at least a rompler, kind of like the Montage, where it's playing recordings of a piano note. So this is literally a recording of a piano being played hard, and this is the recording of the same key being played softly. So they have all these multi-samples in here that are being played, and they're very long, because you have lots and lots of memory, so you can have multiple samples that are many seconds long for each individual key at each individual velocity, because today, memory is cheap. Back when the D-50 came out, memory was not cheap. They didn't really have the option of having multi-samples that would take up megabytes or even gigabytes of memory. So Roland did something innovative, unlike the way they just re-release the same old crap over and over again now. But they actually innovated in a way that was unique and interesting. They realized that for the most part, it was the attack portion, the initial portion of the sound, that was unique and hard to synthesize. The sound of a piano key hitting, you have there's a thunk sound in there because it's the hammer hitting. But the actual, once you've gotten past that initial attack of the sound, it's more or less just kind of a sine wave with some harmonics in behind it. You can synthesize that. It's that initial percussion, the clunk, that sound that is not easily synthesized. So Roland figured that, why don't we just have a sample at the very beginning of the sound? We'll play just the tiniest little bit of a sample for that initial attack of the initial part of the sound, and then we'll just use a synthesizer. We'll use a virtual analog synthesizer for the rest of it. And that way we can make it more realistic sounding without using up tons of memory in samples. That's what they did, and it worked really well. The D-50 became a bestseller and it was used by absolutely everybody. When we come to something like the Montage, now that we have the ANX engine, we can do exactly this sort of thing. Now you can do it on a MODX or OG Montage as well. You'll just have to use FMX or maybe a waveform such as a sine or sawtooth or something as a sample for the sustained part of the sound. But I'm going to demonstrate it on the Montage M by creating, let's say, a Tonewheel organ, because it's fairly easy to do. So let's start with a init performance. So if we go into category, and we're going to select init, and we'll say init normal ANX. So now we have a init performance, and it is just going to be a sawtooth, a single sawtooth oscillator. I'm going to change that to a sine wave. And then we're going to go to oscillator 2, and we're going to add that. We will bring the output level up, and we're going to change that one to a sawtooth. So now we have two oscillators playing a sawtooth, and they're playing the same thing. Let's move this one up an octave. Actually, you know what? Let's move it down an octave. If we go to oscillator 3, it's by default a sine wave already, and I'm going to add that one and put in not an octave. We'll bring it up maybe a fourth or a fifth. So what I'm doing is I'm emulating the harmonics of a Tonewheel organ. And actually that's a little, we're clipping a little bit, so let's bring that one down. And oscillator 2, we'll bring that down because I have them up all the way. All right, so now we have a basic Tonewheel organ. We have 3 sine waves together. If I wanted to, I could add a second part, and that one would be another ANX part, in which case I would add more oscillators and tune them in different places, and you can then adjust those. And in fact, you can adjust it with the sliders here, your oscillator levels, and you can adjust, almost like adjusting your drawbars. You can see. So you can do that on multiple parts as well, just to tune your Tonewheel organ. All right, so now we've got that initial part, which is the actual tone of the organ. All right, so now let's add that initial impact sound that we need for the organ. So we're going to do another init, but this time we're going to do an AWM2 because this is going to be a sample part. So now we have, if we just solo that, it defaults to a piano. We don't want a piano in there, so let's edit that. And we want part 1, or element 1 of part 2. And you can see it's defaulting to a waveform of a piano. And let's do a search, and I think it's called a Clack or something like that. Let's do a search of a Clack. There it is, Clack. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so that's a clacking sound. It's kind of limited because it's one sample for the entire keyboard. But for this purpose, it'll work. If we wanted to, we could come up with a different sound and resample and so on. But for this example, we'll use that. So here's our clack sound. And if we put them together now, you can hear that. You can hear that clack, the initial impact of the sound. If we wanted, we could bring that up, make it louder or softer. So now we have a Tonewheel sound. And we've got that kind of Hammond Tonewheel kind of action noise in there. So then we could go to our Tonewheel section and go to our effects, and we could put some typical effects in here. Let's see, flanger, tremolo. There we go, rotary speaker. That's too much. And then if we wanted to, we could, we have the slow fast. So there is our very simple sound design for a Tonewheel organ done in the style of the Roland D-50. And this is not limited to organ sounds. You can do this with anything. It doesn't have to be an ANX. If I wanted to do this on the Montage original version of the MODX, instead of an init normal on here, if I mute this and I added in another init for an AWM2, and then this will edit our parts, so, or elements rather. Element 1 is just going to be a sine, and we can find just a basic sine right there. And then we can add element 2, which is also going to, actually let's look at element 1, which was sine, and it was 2333. So element 2 will also be 2333. And then element 3 is also going to be 2333. And hey, let's add another one, Why not? Element 4, again, 2, 3, 3, 3. So element 2, we need to turn that on, and element 3, let's turn that one on, element 4, turn that one on. So if we go to element 1, so there's that one. If we go to element 2, and listen to that one, and let's bring up 1 as well, so then we're going to retune element 2. An octave down. Element 3, let's put an octave up. So now we have an octave below, an octave above, and an octave on. And then element 4 we'll put somewhere in between. Let's bring up element 4. And then we, again, drawbars. A little too high, bring those down. So there, we've accomplished the same thing as we were doing with the ANX engine, only we've been using sine wave samples and then pitching those as if they were an analog version of a synthesizer. And of course, then we would also need to go into there and edit our, if we go into our common settings and then our effects, and once again, we want to put in insert of, or what was our rotary speaker. And then we've got our Tonewheel organ, once again. That's obviously using just samples, and you can see the ANX part 1 I've got muted. So you can do it on a MODX, you can do it on the original Montage, and you can do it on a Montage M, and you can use the Montage M to use ANX. It's a little bit different. I actually think I prefer. That's ANX. I don't know. I think I might like the sampled sine wave better. I might have to play with the ANX version anyway. That's creating a sound in the way that Roland did it with the D-50. Of course, it doesn't have to be just organs. You can do that with any kind of sound at all, and have some fun with it. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, leave in the comments section below. If you like this video, hey, click like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out when you do that. Thanks for watching.